Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die, He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. Quran 39:42. We are from Allah and unto Him we return. Quran 2:156. Everything is bound to perish, save His eternal self. With Him rests all judgment, and unto Him shall you all be brought back. Quran 28:88. During deep sleep, when our consciousness retreats entirely and dreams have not yet appeared, we abide as our original stateless state. Then there is only nothingness. Our minds, for all intents and purposes, are completely absent. Without an object to be aware of, our subjective self recedes back into nothingness. This is a return to the mind prior to mind, before awareness altogether. Nothingness, dark, serene, and all-pervading. Ask yourself, where do I go every night in between dreaming and waking? When my consciousness and sense of self drops away entirely, where am I? The answer, utterly inconceivable, literally, is a direct experience of your true nature, nothingness. When you ask this, your mind clutches for something concrete to hold onto in order to explain how there could be a gaping hole in its beingness, but none appears. That lack of a something is it, the vast, fathomless void that Bodhidharma speaks of. This is God. This is Meister Eckhart Snick's nothingness. Empty, markless, and signless. People crave nothingness like a newborn does its mother's milk. The nothingness of deep sleep is sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. Shakespeare 2:39-41. Although we do not remember deep sleep, we instinctively need it, for nothing in life is as refreshing as a good night's rest. This is because it is a direct return to nothingness. In deep sleep, when all objects of body and mind recede, when our sense of self disappears, we abide in the tranquil emptiness of pure nothingness. The dark enfolding womb of nothingness constantly welcomes us home. Sri Ramana Maharshi, one of the greatest sages who ever lived, famously instructed a student to go back the way you came. Osborne 60. He was pointing to the great nothingness that precedes all of life entirely, the experience of universal non-being that we all unconsciously are and long for. Nothingness is the great, magnificent void, the womb of all existence. Nothingness is absolutely undefined and unlimited possibility, boundless possibility. Nothingness is boundless freedom. Nothingness is formless, timeless, unborn. All things are born of being, being is born of non-being, nothingness. The eternal, magnificent, all-encompassing nothingness transcends being, yet is the ground from which existence itself arises. Beyond sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, mind, and form, nothingness nourishes, sustains, and supports all of existence. It is the mysterious, exhaustless womb of being. Non-being is the great womb from which everything arises, abides, and eventually returns. Nothingness is the very basis for reality itself, for there are simply no things that can exist without or outside of nothingness. It states that, not only is our true nature identical with God, but that we are all fundamentally aware of this. We seek happiness as a surrogate because mundane pleasures mirror the greatest bliss imaginable, which is realizing our true nature. We have an intuitive sense of our own vastness and freedom, but in our confusion, we pursue limited forms of happiness such as sensory pleasures, wealth, fame, and so forth. This is why Zen and Taoist masters so often instruct us to return to being a child. It is an invitation to return to the innocence and freedom of nothingness, because becoming nobody or nothing is the most liberating thing we can do. Being depends upon non-being to exist. Nothingness, the dark, nebulous, creative womb and nurturer of all existence. Non-being is fertile, creative, and all-encompassing. Bound by neither space nor time, nothingness is dimensionless, timeless, and formless. Do not look for nothingness with your senses or mind, for the void is beyond color, sound, smell, taste, touch, form, and thought. Nothing is more ultimate than being. This is because being is actualized nothingness or manifestation of God. Humans, including their toils and vices, are all manifestations of the wondrous nothingness. Nothingness is the inexhaustible, suprasensible power underlying all finite beings, the emptiness from which all beings are forged. Nothingness sings as birds, sighs as the wind, breathes as humans, and knows as mind. Once this is realized, there is nothing to worry about, for everything is an expression of nothing. And nothingness is a window on the oneness that underlies and undermines the manifold appearance of the world. The 10,000 things we encounter are not as independent or fragmented as they seem. There is an invisible matrix, a swirl that generates and recycles being. One who ventures into this depth must be prepared to surrender what he knows and is, what he knew and was. The ego cannot abide. An, you cannot wallow in nothingness. In An, for an eternal moment, boundaries disappear. An, S, no, clears everything away, making room for a new, yes. Being, narrows or instantiates the infinite potential or nothingness. For this reason, non-being is not the opposite of being, but its very fount and lifeblood. Nothingness is the source and true nature of all beings. In truth, there is only nothingness. For nothing else ever was. Arise from nothingness. Abide as nothingness. And return to nothingness. Transcend senses and mind and realize that you are truly nothing, that in reality there is only nothing. Then you are free to dance and play on the waves of nothingness. When we negate or discard emotions, thoughts, or objects, firmly declaring that they are not the absolute, this severs our need to control or possess them, freeing us from the tyranny of a jealous or insecure ego. Engage our lives fully without needing to control every aspect of them. But until we discover nothingness, we will be forever chasing things. The mind is truly understood only when its own emptiness is realized. For mind is nothingness occurring as consciousness. Your truest nature is nothingness. Mind and consciousness are in fact nothingness. When our ordinary mind realizes its bottomless ground is nothingness, enlightenment is the union of conditioned consciousness and the illimitable, inexhaustible source of everything, as the mind gazes into its own boundless source. What follows is the recognition that, just as our minds are nothingness, so too is all of existence. Reality, or being, is instantiated nothingness. The world is a manifestation of unmanifest non-being. Just as in deep sleep, nothingness can be experienced in between the spaces in our consciousness. Dark, vast, empty, still, silent, but infinitely receptive and supportive, womb-like. The more often that we return to zero, so to speak, the more stable our ability to abide in the emptiness of non-being will grow. That is realizing God right here, right now, by becoming the nothingness that we and all beings truly are. Non-duality is the teaching that everything is one, non-separate whole. From the viewpoint of non-duality, individuality is an illusion that causes beings to suffer because they feel separate from the rest of the world. As so-called separate beings, we strive to exert our will upon an incooperative world, against which we feel pitted. The inevitable result is anger, frustration, anguish, jealousy, confusion, resentment, and many other painful thoughts and emotions. The realization that we are never separate from the world, that reality is one seamless whole, dissolves our suffering because we no longer feel fragmented or incomplete. To know ultimate nothingness, jettison everything. That means the world, your body, mind, ideas, and even consciousness itself. Everything in the manifest realm must go. In order to look nothingness in the eyes, you must cease being this limited I, and become nothing. The 18th century Hasidic Rabbi Dov Ber agrees, saying, one must think of oneself as a and nothingness, and forget oneself totally. Then one can transcend time, rising to the world of thought, where all is equal, life and death, ocean and dry land. Such is not the case when one is attached to the material nature of this world. If one thinks of oneself as something, God cannot clothe itself in him, for God is infinite, and no vessel can contain it unless one thinks of oneself as a and nothingness. Matt 45-6. Rabbi Ber is encouraging us to penetrate to the deepest core of our being, to its base, to nothingness. This experience is beyond even non-duality, for anything that exists solely in the realm of being is by definition limited, determined, and circumscribed. Nothingness, on the other hand, is limitless, indeterminate, and all-pervading precisely because it is not the opposite of being, but in fact beingness bottomless ground. In this sense, nothingness is the field upon which non-duality actually occurs. Nothingness amputates thinking entirely. For what is nothingness? How can the mind imagine nothingness? Any attempt leaves us clutching for something to grasp hold of, but nothingness, by its very nature, defies conceptualization. That feeling of utter empty non-beingness is nothingness. God, the unconditioned, unborn absolute, cannot be found in form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, or consciousness. Thus it is called nothingness. It cannot be sensed with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, or mind. It has no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, or any form knowable by mind. It cannot be conceived by thought or perceived by the senses. Cast them aside like ash in order to fully realize nothingness. Beyond form and mind, conditions and causation. When all of existence has been transcended, the Absolute shall reveal itself as primordial nothingness. Every being and atom exists inside of, and as expressions of, the Absolute. It is the womb of all phenomena. All existence are manifestations of nothingness. Even so-called defilements. Their true nature is the same as that of all of the enlightened sages. Thus, there are no hindrances. The great way is always wide open. Form arises from nothingness, exists as nothingness, and returns to nothingness. Infinitely expansive, nothingness supports everything. Thus, when sages see form, they see nothing. Form is nothingness, nothingness is form. Nothingness transcends all categories and dualities. It is unborn and undying, neither changing nor eternal. It is formless and boundless, neither self nor other, self nor no self. It is beyond will or volition, neither an entity nor a substance. It is tranquil and serene, neither moving nor inert. It is markless and empty, beyond pureness and defilements. Nothingness precedes subject and object, existence and non-existence. It is unconditioned and all-pervading. Awakening to nothingness marks the highest and most complete realization. The marrow of all sages. Those who know nothingness are awakened. Those who do not are deluded. You can awaken to the unconditioned in an instant. Simply negate all that you can see, hear, taste, touch, feel, and think. That which remains, which cannot be negated, is absolute nothingness. Beyond all colors, sounds, smells, flavors, sensations, experiences, thoughts, is total non-being. All that can be said about it is that it is not. Nothingness needs no cultivation. For like the sky, it cannot be stained nor defiled. It is numinous, without a second, which, like infinite space, cannot be born nor perish, be added to nor subtracted from. It is your and all beings' true face, the mother of all awakened beings. Realize this and you will transcend all delusions, karma, and attachments, and return to your own pristine, immediate nature, which is none other than nothingness, from which, in truth, you have never departed. All phenomena are expressions of nothingness, and thus they continuously proclaim. Nothingness is the true nature of all beings. To realize that I and all of existence are nothingness is freedom and enlightenment. And God's is the east and the west, and wherever you turn, there is God's countenance. Behold, God is infinite, all-knowing. Quran 2, 115. And then he forms him in accordance with what he is meant to be, and breathes into him of his spirit. And thus, O men, he endows you with hearing, and sight, and feelings as well as minds. Yet how seldom are you grateful. Quran 32, 9. Indeed, Allah Ta'ala has reserved certain individuals among the inhabitants of earth as his containers. The containers of your Rabb are the hearts of his pious slaves, and the most beloved of hearts to Allah are the softest and most tender. Neither my heavens nor my earth contain me, but the heart of my believing servant contains me. Make your heart pure and free of everything besides God. Love is freeing oneself except the beloved. Be intimate with God. Be a mirror for God's generosity and kindness. One of the virtues of love is that like a blazing fire it burns and consumes everything other than the beloved. It is as if it draws the sword of, there is no God, and destroys everything other than God, and all there remains is, except God. Hence only through love is the formula of unification, Tawhid, there is no God but God, realized. For the lovers only he becomes the object of joy and sorrow. He alone becomes the object of their reward and remuneration. If the lover has anything other than the beloved as the object of his love, it is idolatry, it is not love, it is simply idle passion. For his lovers he alone is their joy and sorrow. He alone is their wages and hire for service. If there be any spectacle except the beloved it is not love, it is an idle passion. Love is that flame which when it blazes up consumes everything else but the beloved. The lover drives home the sword of, no, in order to kill all other than God. Thereupon consider what remains after. No, there remains, except God, all the rest is gone. Nothingness does not rely upon the world of form or objects. Rather, they are manifestations of the unmanifest. They are waves and nothingness is the ocean. Without the ocean, there are no waves. Similarly, without non-being there is no being. The beauty of the process is that once we arrive at nothingness, we are free to resurrect all of the things that we just negated. Nothingness redeems ordinary life, revitalizing it with energy, clarity, and wisdom. It imbues us with freedom and passion without the anxious need to possess and control everything. Life becomes playful and light, as we realize that the entire world, from the ugliest work to the most beautiful symphony, is an expression of the Absolute. It is the divine dance of nothingness.